I think UNC's been building to this, and it's good to see it happen at home with a good crowd against a good team that was a great test. And I think there are two main takeaways that have nothing to do with Armando Bacot, who was pretty good last night, and nothing to do with RJ Davis, who was also pretty good last night. The two biggest factors to why North Carolina has people going, oh, I see the Tar Heels might be back, is that Elliot Cadeau has grown into the starter's role that we saw the last two nights. And he probably had his best game last night. I think that was 10 assists, no turnovers. In the first 3 games of the season where he played roughly 20 minutes a night until the Arkansas loss, he went from 8 assists and 8 turnovers in the first 3 games to 21 assists and just 1 turnover in the last 4. And he played major minutes last night. I alluded to this yesterday in talking about how Hubert Davis has gone away from what we saw last year, where he seemed very locked in on who he was going to play and didn't really develop his bench, to playing a bunch of guys and trusting Elliot Cadeau to get his feet wet so that he could be as big of a contributor as he was last night. So this is excellent from an Elliot Cadeau standpoint, who reclassified. This is excellent for North Carolina going forward.
And I love that it's Marcus Page mentoring him.
Yes.
That's because remember Marcus Page, we remember Marcus Page at the end.
Right.
And he was really, really good. I mean, he was as Roy liked to say, a tough little nut, you know, but he was a baller. But at the beginning, it was hard for him to find his feet, because he's not an uber talented guy. I get the sense with Elliot Cadeau, there's a lot of Marcus Page in there, you know, and a lot of people have tried to compare him to Kendall Marshall, but he's not that size. He's not that frame. You look at him on the floor frame wise and you're like, oh yeah, that's always going to be the beauty of Carolina basketball to me. You could always plug a player in and be like, oh yeah, we've had one of those.
Right.
And then that makes you have the warm and fuzzy feelings for that type of player. Mm-hmm. And last night, it's funny, you said he had his best game. Yeah, he didn't make a shot.
Not the point.
But that's not what he's there for. That's
not the point. Right.
He's there to make everybody else go.
But look, as much as Caleb Love is, because a lot of this season is going to be about what did Caleb Love do, not do, and whatnot. Biggest issue with Caleb Love is, you live by Caleb Love, you die by Caleb Love. It was the roller coaster, the Love roller coaster. Shout out to, I always preferred the remake by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. But anyway, the point is that sometimes if it went to Caleb Love, it might not be coming back out. And that's not good for RJ. That's not good for Armando Bacot. So yes, not scoring points, but that's not why he's there. That's not what they need, which gets to my second point. Pete Nance, man, bless him. He was supposed to come in, plug and play. You go be Brady Manick.
Right.
You go do that.
You never want to be the guy who follows the guy.
Never mind. Like you mean you want me to go on an all-time heater in the last? No, I can't do that. And Pete Nance had some back issues and whatnot. It just wasn't a good fit for Pete Nance. He was also a defensive liability for the Tar Heels last year. Here comes Harrison Ingram, who can slide into the 4, slide into the 3, and has been making shots. He's had 12 threes in the last 4 games. And again, he has a particular energy and spark that makes him a lot of fun to watch. And he was incredibly fun to watch last night. He was part of that early heat check, too, for the Tar Heels as they were breaking out a very big lead. But here's where we get to the other part of North Carolina. That would be... And you can't let Tennessee score 92 points on you, man. And it did get into single digits in the second half. Not that I ever felt that North Carolina was going to lose this game, but it did at least raise, as Hubert Davis would like to say, a yellow flag about the Tar Heels defensively, where I don't know if their best lineup, which we saw on the court a bunch last night, is good enough defensively yet. Those are things you can work on.
It was like, that was some Jackson Pollock shit right there. You just threw every single piece of paint from that game on the wall.
I did.
Because did you have my espresso?
Because to me,
did you have my espresso bean?
No, it's called I'm jacked up on adrenaline from having to go pick up my kid again.
Okay. I'm trying to unpack a few of those things.
Okay, unpack them then.
Ingram, when the season began, Brad Frederick over there, I texted with him, say, hey man, what are we thinking with this new group? Who are you looking? Because a lot of people were talking about Cadeau.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, no, he's legit. He's a pass first guy. Like he's going to run the offense. He goes, but Harrison Ingram, that's the guy that's going to really kind of make us go a little bit.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, we haven't had. So and different from Brady Manick, maybe a little bit, you're not allowed to say bad things about Theo Pinson, but maybe like a little bit more polished version.
Yeah, maybe.
Because of what they wanted the kid from last year. They wanted him to be Theo Pinson so badly. For Leaky. They wanted Leaky Black so badly to be Theo Pinson. It just wasn't what his skill set was. He was a different player. I think Ingram is closer to that Pinson scale. Maybe not in personality, of course, but I think he's a really important player. How you can tell they already trust him, 38 minutes in that game last night. That's number 2. I think Cadeau you're right. I think Ingram, number 2. Number 3, I wouldn't worry about the defense in the second half of that game because of the way that they had dominated in the first half and the way that everything came together. The most important thing for me from that game was there is a different standard for men's basketball at North Carolina. And that standard goes, and I haven't seen Carolina play to that standard since the Final Four 2 years ago. There was never a point last year where the money was on the table and they showed up. And I know it's November 29th yesterday. The money was on the table yesterday. They showed up and they said to Tennessee, we are better than you. You think you're a bully. You think you're gonna come in here and drag this game down into the 60s and maybe push us around like you did Duke last year, or maybe like Pitt likes to do when they come over here and think that we're soft. Carolina announced with authority last night in the first 20 minutes of that basketball game, this ain't last year. We're not soft. You're not going to push us around. And quite frankly, scoring 60 points and a half. If you're Roy and if you are of the Roy disciples, you're watching them. I'm serious. You're watching them get up and down the floor, and you're like, that's Carolina basketball, not the crap that you saw last year. That is Carolina basketball.
I think you nailed it right there. You're not going to win a championship in November.
No,
it's just, again, I have to stay. I try to stay really, really consistent in what we see in college basketball in the modern era in November. However, you are absolutely on point by pointing out that this game was a statement game for UNC to indicate to everybody, including themselves, this ain't last year. And it's why I asked Armando Bacot at ACC Tip-Off back in October, last year you said that it was about last year. So how do you prevent this year from being about last year and the year before that again? And that is by wiping the slate clean and announcing that, no, this is who we are this year. And they were a lot of fun to watch.
Symbolic, by the way, because you remember in Hubert's first year, they got pasted by Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
Pasted early by Tennessee. And so, again, symbolic. You come home, it's your home building. You're announcing in this newfangled ACC-SEC relationship, oh, okay. You pushed Duke around last year? That ain't us.